Hello, welcome to Viking News. Today's top stories. Thor, the Viking god of thunder, has had his hammer stolen. As I am sure you know, this is no ordinary hammer. It has the magical power to return to Thor, its master, once it has been thrown. Known to many as Mjolnir, the hammer was last seen yesterday at 2200 hours in his bedchambers in Asgard. Currently, we do not know who has taken the hammer or why, but as you can imagine, Thor is not happy. For as long as anyone can remember, Thor has diligently defended Asgard. Without his hammer, the gods have been left defenseless against attack. He joins me now. Thor, can you tell us when you last saw your hammer?
I do not know. I fell asleep last night after the feast in Asgard, and when I awoke, my hammer was no longer beside me. My father Odin is furious. He will set the will of the gods against whomever has taken it. We will show no mercy.
Yes, of course, I understand. However, without your hammer, you are, if you don't mind me saying, much weakened. Is that correct?
How dare you! I, Thor, god of thunder, weak!
Sorry, I didn't mean to cause offence. Do you have any suspicions about who may have stolen it?
No, at this stage I do not know, but Loki has indicated he may have a suspect in mind. He has been given permission to investigate further.
Thank you for your time today, Thor. So, there you have it. The most famous hammer ever known has been stolen by a mysterious thief. Will they ever be caught? Will the gods get their revenge? Stay tuned. We will, of course, keep you up to date on this fascinating and worrying story.
Wow, what an incredibly exciting start to a lesson. Did I hear you say that? I'm pretty sure you were all thinking exactly that. And you're probably thinking, Mrs. Benzie, please tell us more. Tell us what we're doing this week. That was so professional and phenomenal. Thank you. Thank you very much. So this week we are doing some learning all about Thor, the Viking god Thor. So the Vikings actually believed in lots of gods and goddesses, who they believed lived in this place here called Asgard. Okay, here we have some images of Thor. I mean, they're not quite as manly looking as my interpretation there, but this one over here, this is more the traditional version of Thor. This is sort of based on the Norse mythology, and down in this corner we've got this modern representation that I'm sure lots of you will have seen. There's some modern films of Thor, and he stars in some of the Avengers films as well. Okay, so Thor was a Viking god, and he was believed to be the god of thunder. Okay, and sometimes he is said to have guarded the entrance to Asgard, the place where the gods lived. And Thor carried this hammer. You can see in each of these pictures he's holding a hammer called Mjolnir, which was incredibly powerful. So when the Viking people heard thunder, they said that they believed it was the rumbling wheels of Thor's chariot, or it was when Thor had unleashed the power of his hammer. Okay, and so if Thor's hammer was stolen, then it really was a big deal. Okay, and that's what happens in the story that you are going to read today. Okay, so you've got a couple of tasks today. Oops, excuse me. First task is to read the Viking myth. Okay, it's the myth called Thor's Stolen Hammer, and it is saved on the school website underneath this video. So I'm hoping most of you will read it for yourselves. Okay, if you don't feel confident about that, I will read it to you at the end of this video. Okay, but the challenge, if possible, is to read it for yourself, and then I want you to have a go at summarising the story in just 6 sentences. Okay, today's LO is I can summarise the main ideas in a text. Okay, so your task is to summarise it in just 6 sentences. So that means deciding on 6 key events and then writing them down in sentences. Okay, now your sentences hopefully are going to be fairly long and detailed. Okay, so for example, your first sentence, instead of saying Thor woke up to find his hammer had been stolen, that's a short sentence, bit boring, doesn't give us much detail. Instead, it might say Thor was angry when he realized that a mysterious thief had taken his mighty hammer called Mjolnir. Okay, can you see that I've got quite a bit of detail into that one opening sentence? Then your final task for today is to use those sentences to complete the storyboard sheet with pictures. Okay, now you will recognize the storyboard sheet. It basically is a comic, okay, like a comic strip, and we've done them plenty of times in class. So pop your sentences along the bottom and then you can draw pictures to illustrate it. Okay, it's as simple as that. That's your task for today. Okay, so if you feel confident reading the story, you can go and read it now to yourself. If you feel less confident, okay, stay with me and I will read the story to you and you can read along as it's on the next few slides. Okay, oops. Okay. Oh, I thought I could zoom in on that. Let's see if I can. I can, there we go. Okay, so this story is called Thor's Stolen Hammer and it is a Viking myth. One morning, mighty Thor awoke to find that his precious hammer, Mjolnir, was missing. Desperately, he woke the other gods and goddesses, asking if they had seen his hammer. To his disappointment, none of them had. Mjolnir was the most powerful weapon that the gods possessed, and if their enemies heard that Mjolnir was missing, then they might attack. The gods would be powerless against them. Loki, the trickster god, had an idea about who had stolen Mjolnir, so he turned himself into a falcon and flew off to find Thrym, the king of the giants. When Loki found Thrym, the giant confessed that it was indeed him that had stolen the hammer while Thor slept. He mocked the god and boasted about how easy it had been. Thrym also said that he had hidden it in a place where no one could find it. Smugly, he declared that he would not return Mjolnir until Freya, the most beautiful of all of the goddesses, was made his bride. With a heavy heart, Loki flew off to tell the gods the bad news. They debated and argued, but eventually they came up with a clever plan. They would dress mighty Thor up in Freya's clothing and send him to marry the unsuspecting Thrym. Thor didn't like the idea of dressing up as a woman, but he disliked the idea of beautiful Freya becoming the giant king's bride even more, so he reluctantly agreed. Oops, sorry. Thor, dressed as a bride, was accompanied by his handmaiden, Loki, to Thrym's castle. When Thor and Loki arrived, Thrym welcomed them and held a feast in their honor. Thor, who was known for his enormous appetite, ate an entire ox, a net full of salmon, 6 barrels of mead by himself. When Thrym asked Loki why the maiden was eating so much, Loki cunningly replied that she had not eaten for a week in anticipation of the wedding and was famished. Thinking that Freya was really in love with him, Thrym decided to give her a kiss. Thrym lifted her veil and prepared to kiss his bride when he caught sight of her red eyes. Alarmed, he asked Loki why his bride's eyes looked the way they did. Soothingly, Loki replied that she had not slept for a week either and would be fine once she had a chance to rest. Dim-witted Thrym accepted this and decided to make his bride wait no longer for the wedding. He went to fetch Mjolnir. As soon as Thor saw his beloved Mjolnir hammer, he was overwhelmed with emotions. Thor could not restrain himself anymore. At the very first touch of the hammer, Thor tore off his disguise and smashed everything in the palace of Thrym, including the giant himself. So there you have it. There is the Norse myth of Thor and his stolen hammer. So your task is to find 6 or to make up 6 key sentences to retell that story and to put them into the storyboard with pictures. Okay, good luck, and I will see you for tomorrow's lesson.